So good afternoon, friends. India's SME sector, as Harjit and Ganesh have spoken at length on this particular thing, it's over 60 to 70 million strong kind of stuff. And they have largely watched the AI waves from the sidelines. Not because they lack ambition as such, but simply because most AI infrastructure is built assuming enterprise budgets, dedicated IT teams, and English first interfaces. That's simply not the reality for, say, a small manufacturer in Coimbatore or a logistic firm in Nagpur or maybe a pharmacy in Nashik. Today's panel is about a bet that is changing, the entire structure, as both Ganesh and Harjit have said, that this is more about democratizing AI. And interestingly, voice is the entry point for this. With me, of course, Ganesh Lakshminarayanan, who is the managing MD and CEO of Tata Communications, and Harjit Singh, MD of Tata Teleservices. And we are going to discuss, in a sense, what exactly, how are they going to bring the unified AI infrastructure to India's SMB? Of course, starting with voice AI, which is agentic AI in nature, and pretty interesting because it gets tasks done on your behalf. It completes a task on your behalf. Now, unified AI architecture is an imposing term. I mean, in a sense that you're talking about computing power, you're talking about data, you're talking about AI tools, you're talking about security, governance, compliance, etc., all integrated into a simple kind of, into an integrated architecture, into a unified umbrella kind of term. So all of this is being stitched together. But voice is a smart place to start, and as we have seen that some of these voice agents are also having conversations with each other. Now, basically, given the kind of literacy levels that we have in India, of course, voice is always a smart solution. But voice AI, as both the chiefs of these two separate units of the Tata Group have pointed out, is a starting point, and it's a kind of a step towards something that is larger. But the infrastructure that is lies beneath the unified AI architecture is something which is very complex, which is language models, data pipelines, security, scale, etc. And of course, I think the main point here is that SMBs should be able to afford the solution. Of course, let's start with you, Harjit. I mean, India's SMB, as you have said, that already contribute about 31% to the GDP, or even more perhaps, and they employ hundreds of millions of people. Yet, when we talk about the AI revolution, it seems that the conversation is seldom about them and more about the enterprise AI. So, are we at an inflection point where all this is sort of changing?
Yeah. Leslie, I genuinely believe that we are at that inflection point today, and there is, a variety of reasons why I say that. I mentioned in my presentation as well that in our discussions with small and medium enterprises, they are more and more acutely aware of the business bottlenecks, right? And everything actually starts from there. I also mentioned to you that with such a diversified technology supply side, sometimes you can be tempted into decisions which eventually sort of, don't work out for you. So that clear knowledge of what are we trying to fix, whether it is demand generation or fulfillment or customer service. And on the supply side, I think we made rapid progress in terms of, so AI is not one large multi-year end-to-end deployment, but we have outcome-based use cases, and Vasant beautifully explained 2 or 3 of those use cases, which the SMEs can now rely on. For instance, for me, demand generation is the primary bottleneck, right? I can have an AI solution which focuses on that. And it is available to me cost-effectively, pay-as-you-go models. And when I successfully deploy that, it gives me more confidence. More importantly, it gives me more cash flow as well, to then look at the other issues that I face, whether it is on the customer service side or not. And while, like I said, the need, the supply landscape, and perhaps equally important parameter is accessibility, right? Providers like us are now making all these solutions accessible not just to, say, SMEs sitting out in metro cities, but anywhere where they may be sort of based out. So it really becomes a perfect storm, is what I believe. And therefore, we really are at that inflection point where the productivity gap that I spoke about could be bridged through solutions which are relevant to SMEs.
Ganesh, you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think I think about it simply this way. For a man who doesn't have a lot of hair, I think about shampoo a lot. If you look at the huge enterprises, right? They are in the business of creating their own chemicals. From there, they won't create their own shampoo and then consume in bulk, right? They're talking about building a purpose-built chip and a computer, and they put this together, huge data center. That's one small set of companies. Then there are companies, they're saying, okay, give me all the chemical ingredients, I'll make my own shampoo and sell it, right? So these are big banks, they want to buy the GPU, they want to get their own LLMs, they want to get trained. It's a very complex environment. You need to have a shampoo factory to do all of that. And what I think we are doing is that, we've got the ingredients, we got the shampoo, and we're just bringing it in sachet to SMBs to consume. I think we are at an inflection point where the sachet-based model of AI would democratize this for all SMBs to consume. I think that's what we are trying to do. What we are doing is we got the chemicals, we got the shampoo and the conditioner, we are just packaging it, giving it to Harjit so that he can distribute it across the SMBs. I think we're making that simple.
I like the analogies that you actually give, with the sachet approach. So it's a modular approach. But
Right.
at the same time, we are talking about, that imposing term perhaps, which is a kind of a distraction, the unified AI architecture. So that sounds very imposing because especially most SMBs don't even have a CTO, forget an AI team as such. And I think you're taking away the pain from that particular. But, in the last 12 to 18 months, how much of the adoption have you actually seen from this point of view that has probably encouraged you to take this step? Because it's a well thought through kind of step.
I think I shared some numbers with you that within launching an AI practice with, say, multiple use cases over the last 6 months, we would have touched almost 600 customers. And on the face of it, it looks like a large number, but if you look at the opportunity size out there, it's a fairly sort of tiny number. And like you rightly said, the key is that these are modular solutions, right? So often, SMEs can get daunted by sovereign AI and all that. If you are speaking in their language, right, if you are solving problems that they see on a daily basis, using technology, the adoption is increasing on a daily basis. So 600 is just a sort of a number. I think it's to demonstrate that if you have an AI-led solution which speaks to key customer issues, and SME issues, again, can be roughly bracketed into the 2 or 3 I mentioned, right? There is appetite for adoption. That, you can safely say that.
So, Ganesh, just elaborating on this, or taking this question forward, regardless of, and especially when we're speaking about generative AI and agentic AI in that sense, there's a lot of skepticism within even large enterprises about the ROI factor. Where's the return on investment? Reams and reams have been written about that. For SMBs, all the more because every penny counts.
Right.
So if you could just explain on how you're making that.
Well, I think, as like any other technology, the ROI for AI is also evolving, right? I fundamentally believe that the real value of AI comes when it is integrated with enterprise data, not on internet data. If you know about your customer, if you can provide a service which is hyper-personalized, that particular AI agent is attacking the revenue side of your P&L, not the cost side of your P&L. That's when the real value in the country like India is going to come. So I said it in the beginning, that the value of AI in a country of billion people cannot be about replacing humans. It's about making that technology work for humans, to bring hyper-personalized services, to bridge the service gap today which exists in the country. So what you saw today is an attempt at bridging exactly that skill gap, the service gap. We are bringing digital workers with various different skill sets to SMBs, deeply integrated with data, hyper-personalized, and ability to get stuff done. It's able to book a reservation. It's able to convince a store, how to improve the productivity of a sales rep. I think this is where the real value of AI ROI is going to come. I think it's going to be true for enterprises as well. I think the concept of going from pilot to production in a lot of enterprises, we are seeing that. But they're all happening because they are building purpose-built LLMs on enterprise data in a secure, tight-gapped environment, solving specific problems, which gives ROI. What we have launched today is AI use cases with real outcomes. Yeah. You don't look at them as just voice agents. It's one of the things we have launched. Tomorrow it could be a bookkeeping agent. It could be an e-commerce agent. The unified AI infrastructure makes it possible to bring various different shampoos in different colors and different smell in the future. I think that's what we're after.
See, I think that's the operative word, outcome-based solutions.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I was going to ask you. So when the pricing model is subscription-based or outcome-based?
It is. It can be outcome-based as well. But even before you get to the subscription model, it's about what does that solution do for you? Your original question was on ROI. Here, you saw the demonstration in all those three cases. The outcome is very visible. You'll be able to handle so many more customers. You'll be able to generate so many more leads and therefore generate so much more business. Therefore, the ROI question is really, really, answered out there.
And it's also about the ease of onboarding SMBs onto this journey. We want to make it as easy as hiring digital workers. They have their own phone numbers. They come on there. They have identity. They have security. They're integrated with their data, and they start working from day one and delivering top-line results for SMBs.
Yeah, it is starting with something that they understand, the phone call, basically. And I think that's the thing. Let's talk a little bit about the infrastructure, the connectivity kind of, the foundation that is already there. So we talk a lot about AI readiness as such, but underneath every AI application as such is a connectivity and infrastructure, question. So for an SMB, say in a tier 2 or a tier 3 kind of city, what does that foundation need to look like before AI can even become relevant to their business?
No, I'm sort of happy to share with you and the sort of audience here as well that I would say over the last 4 or 5 years, the way the entire telco environment and the telcos have come together to deliver enterprise-grade infrastructure, not just in the major cities, but in tier 2, tier 3, is very, very impressive. So while we sit here and talk about the collaboration that we are kickstarting, there is this collaboration that happens with literally every service provider out there on the network side of it. So I would dare say that the foundational infrastructure is very much there, right? Whether it is the long distance routes or whether it is the capillarity within the cities, the connectivity between data centers, it really doesn't matter whether you are an SME sitting in Mumbai or an SME sitting in Mysore. So some of the foundational elements have been, sort of solved out there, right? So it's just a question of your ambition now, right? In fact, when we meet customers, it is not, we see so many of these SMEs now coming from the hinterland, or what was previously known as the hinterland, right? With beautiful product ideas and service ideas and using technology on top of it to deliver those products and services. So yes, the connectivity can get better, but I think we have, amongst the telcos, a large enough network so that we can, really benefit the millions and millions of SMEs out there.
Ganesh, I know you have touched upon it in a presentation, but if you may want to add a couple.
Yeah, I think, it's only seeing the tip of the iceberg. The below it is the massive capillarity TTSL provides in connecting digitally every SMBs in the country. The telecom infrastructure they have built, right? The GPU infrastructure we had built, the commotion voice platform, and, combining all of it is a lot of engineering effort which has gone from Vasant's team in making something like, imagine, right, internet actually opened up the globe in English to all the SMBs in the country. Today, with this technology, you can have a manufacturer in Tirupur doing business in Kannada, it can be doing business in Telugu. I think it really brings, the whole country together where the market opens up because language is not a barrier anymore for your business. You can have people sitting in Tirupur talking in Sindhi and Punjabi and Tamil and selling your products and servicing your product. I think it's a phenomenal opportunity.
And I love the fact that you open up every conversation with an analogy. That really so that's a good thing. Ganesh, sovereign AI has become a kind of a very big theme nationally, and rightly so also. The idea that India's data, India's AI should run on Indian infrastructure. It's an appealing idea and a need of the hour also. But do SMBs really care about this particular part of it? Do they understand that or the importance of it? Or is it, largely an enterprise conversation as such?
No, so I mean, obviously, like I said, while SMEs may be slightly behind the tech adoption curves, but they are very much aware of the issues and, regarding data and how safe it is, and whether you need a sovereign manifestation of that data or whether that data can travel to other locations as well. From the government side as well, there are compliance issues around that. If I'm a pure SME and my arena is local, whether my data goes probably outside or not may not be an immediate concern area, right? As my sort of arena expands, right, where the data that I have, preferential data that I have collected of my customers, right, and it can be used by, say, my competitor, it becomes more an issue. But I would say, in a general sense, if I'm an SME owner, I would really sort of be happy to work with an operator who has a sort of a sovereign sort of AI stack rather than somebody who, say, hosting my data and his application in other geographies of the world. So from a functionality point of view, maybe doesn't make a difference. From a cost point of view, from a security point of view, it can make a difference. Depends on how advanced you are in your tech adoption curve and whether you are a micro enterprise or a medium enterprise, whatever. But the general safe answer is that I would always prefer a sovereign AI stack to a.
Ganesh, you want to?
In the enterprise world also, the word sovereignty, what is ultimately behind that sovereignty is first and foremost is business continuity. People want to make sure that the infrastructure I've selected will continue to run in spite of other external factors out there, right? That's an important thing. Second is data privacy, making sure that my customers' data will never be compromised, right? That's important for big companies and small companies. Third is security, right? So I don't want to be attacked by foreign actors, wrong people. So that's a third part of the sovereignty. And the fourth, obviously, is the trust. Can I trust a brand to take care of me as if it's their own business? I think these four underlines the sovereignty. You can have multiple definitions of it. But if you ask any enterprise customer, they will say, here are my four things that I worry about, right? Business continuity, data, security, and trust. I think the same thing applies to SMB. They may not really use the word sovereignty, but the same thing applies to them as well.
Yeah, I guess trust is the operative word out here. Now, both of your organizations, have independently served different parts of this market for years. Tata Com has been largely enterprise and global. Your Tata Teleservices has been deeply embedded in the India's SMB market. So, why, what does the market look like when you combine both your strengths, and why did you do it just now? You could have done it earlier also.
While this particular initiative is something that we are doing just now, I think behind it is years and years of collaboration, not just TCL, more so with TCL, but with the rest of the ecosystem players as well. For instance, there is a natural symmetry, or our network assets are complementary. TCL has these long distance fat pipes. We have the capillarity within the cities, right, which really makes for sort of a natural complementary out there. Even from a product profile, yes, there are some overlaps, right, since they are deeply involved on the large enterprise side, and many of their solutions are bespoke, whereas many of our solutions are horizontal, right? But if you put the two strengths together here, I think the gap where we were experiencing, and I alluded to that in my presentation as well, is that while we've built a fairly large GTM and we can reach thousands and lakhs of customers, from a product portfolio point of view, we were feeling certainly limited, right? We were looking for this modular, outcome-based AI solution, which then appeals to the masses out there. And this is where this the promise of this collaboration is, where, like he said, the joint goal is to democratize technology. I think will become more and more relevant for more and more small and medium enterprises out there.
I can confidently say that I am more excited about this partnership than Harjit. The reason I say that is that we are a global company. We serve Fortune 500, 300 of the Fortune 500. 60% of our revenue comes outside of India, but India is an important market for us. And a partner like TTSL is a great way to make sure that our products we are creating is simple enough, good enough for SMBs to adopt. One thing I tell my team is that if I can make Harjit and his team say that, look, this product works for SMBs in India, I think the chances are very high that it'll work for enterprises globally. And everybody is looking for simplicity, ease of use, modular purchases and stuff like that. So I think it's a great partnership. If Harjit can make this commotion AI and the whole thing, which we will make it work in India, we are excited the market opens up for us. We are excited about this partnership.
Yeah, and the starting point of voice, I think we had some excellent demonstrations of even two AI agents actually talking to each other. So that was pretty interesting. But looking ahead, you did touch upon other segments and how you want to build from voice AI. So if you could just sort of elaborate a bit on that.
No, so again, at the cost of repeating myself, I think the most, I would say, popular use case out there when we speak with SMEs, often they have a great product, they have a loyal set of customers, is how do they scale? So demand generation becomes a very, very key part of the value chain for which there needs to be a solution. How do they their customers become more and more aware of their products and services? How are they able to really make sure that every customer interaction, there is a ROI at the end of it? That we saw a demonstration of the lead scoring and all that. That's one part of it. The other part of it is, again, there is a category of customers who've, scaled, but now their customer experience is sort of suffering, right? The quality and consistency is just not there. That's a very, very ripe use case that we will sort of work on to make sure that not only do you generate more demand, but you're able to fulfill it as well.
I have been fortunate enough to be part of two big technology things. I was part of .com in '99. I was working for Dell in US. I saw the whole. If somebody had told me, fast forward 25 years in a country like India, the whole front end is digitized. We can order pizza online, we can order shoe online, we can hail a cab, we can trade stocks. You can't imagine a world in India without internet. If somebody had told me that India would depend on internet like this, UPI payments. It's a fantastic example of how we have leapfrog. I think AI brings that kind of opportunity to a country like India. Imagine, this can actually make every SMB a global company. They can have sales agents in multiple different countries. They can have service agents in multiple different countries. They don't have to think that they need to be an enterprise to have a global reach. You could be speaking Russian, you could be speaking Spanish, you could be speaking anything, talking about your product and selling and servicing your product. I think suddenly every SMB in this country can be a global enterprise with presence across multiple continents and be really serving customers globally. I think it's a fantastic technology which we are putting in the hands of SMBs.
Before we conclude, three quick questions. One, of course, is around security and accountability. So, SMBs will be feeding customer data, whether it's phone numbers, order history, payment info, etc., into the system. So, what happens if there's a breach? Who bears the liability? The SMB, you? How does it work actually in practice?
I think we take this unified AI infrastructure very seriously from a security standpoint. It is not a bolt-on to our infrastructure. Security is ingrained into everything we do. We have been bringing network and connectivity to all the companies in India. The same rigid security things we apply to our basic infrastructure, where 35% of the world's internet goes through us, we would bring the same to this unified infrastructure as well. Data, we believe, is always in the hands of the customer. I think it is their control on the data which we want to enable. We want to make sure that it's fully safe, secure. As I mentioned, it's about the sovereignty, which means for the SMBs is about do I have continuity of business, do I have trust, do I have security, and do I have make sure that my privacy of data consumer is protected. I think this unified AI infrastructure has built all that in mind.
And that will be an important factor, which the SMEs will use to choose their service provider.
Excellent. A little bit on change management. Many SMB owners and their staff may be wary or resistant to AI systems. In a sense, you're changing patterns that have been and many of these companies are kind of traditional, run by traditionally. So how exactly, are you handling that adoption resistance?
See, I would say that this issue is probably more prevalent in the larger enterprises who have access to to skilled resources.
Interesting.
SMEs, where the typical thing is that you're struggling to get skilled resources, right? So it's almost technology for them is complementary to the skill sets that they have, to the resources that they have. So it's not that much of a harder sell. And again, if you look at the use cases, the SMEs are sort of automating using AI in heavy transaction loads, high repeatability, so that then the resources that you have can actually focus on value creation rather than customer calls. Obviously those are important, but the type that we sort of discussed here. So in the SME, it's not that much of a problem. They see technology as an ally rather than a competitor. In the large enterprise space, you're likely to see it as probably a competitor more. However, that still means that your communication to your employees has to be strong. We are doing this to handle the high volumes so that more value creation can be done by the people that we employ.
Great. Ganesh, you want to add?
Any technology initially, imagine computers, right? Bank employees were against when computers came in, right? We always think of this as technology replacing human beings. Anything which replaces human beings is not going to survive. Internet didn't replace human beings. It created so many jobs. I think the solutions we have shown today is not about cost saving. It's actually enhancing the top line of these companies. It makes this company scale in multiple languages in multiple countries and really become a global enterprise without being in every continent. I think it's an exciting thing. Anything which you position as replacing humans, I don't think that's exciting.
So finally, before we conclude, I'm going to ask this question to both of you. Let's begin with you, Ganesh. If you could leave every SMB owner with one thing, one action, one mindset shift, one question to ask their technology vendor or partner, what would it be?
I would say, can it solve my real problem and how soon can I start?
Exactly. Can you deliver me real outcomes? I'm not here to get knowledge of the various options that you have. Here are my problems. Can you solve them for me?
I'm so glad you ended on that point. What is the problem that you want to solve and how do you want to solve? So thank you very much for your time, Ganesh and Harjit.
Thank you.
Please give them a big hand.
Thank you.